Hello and welcome back to the 433 avid consumers of Pax Dei content and the 60% of you who have not yet hit that subscribe button. My name's Eltari, the professional gamer, and this is another Pax Friday review, the show where we talk about all of the fun, interesting, new, and exciting information that has dropped for Pax Dei over the last week. This week, we got a special treat, and we actually got two sets of screenshot drops, including something that I personally am exceptionally excited about as the subject for both of these screenshot drops. And that is community building and villages and cities. So this week's episode, we're going to be going over all 31 screenshots that we got for community builds that have been done in the most recent Friends and Family Alpha for Pax Dei. With all of that being said, if this is the type of content that you like, don't forget to hit that like button and share this video with any of your friends who might be interested in Pax Dei. It most certainly helps spread the word about this amazing game, as well as help our small startup channel. With all of that being said, we have a lot of screenshots to get into, so let's go ahead and dive right on into it. All right, so like I said, we have 31 new screenshots of amazing community builds that have been done in the most recent Friends and Family Alpha. This first image that I wanted to go over is one of the closest images we have to a fully panoramic shot of a city that has been made by all players in game in the alpha right now. And we can see a couple of really interesting architectural features here. First and foremost, it looks like this shot is being taken from a player's perspective. We can see the UI for all of their equipment and the health bar, stamina bar, and all of that. They're probably overlooking it from some cliffside or something like that is what it appears to be. And we can see the glory of an entire city laid bare from this cliffside. It looks like there is still some parts of the city that are actively in development and being worked on, but we can kind of make out a couple of the things that we're going to be seeing even more of in the coming screenshots. First and foremost, we have this massive building right over here, what I believe is some form of church. We have a really cool, almost like a monument to the divine down here, as it has something that kind of looks like the Pax Dei symbol. We have some in progress buildings down here, some streetways. There's really big street, which we'll also see in a couple of screenshots ahead. And then in addition to that, it looks like there are some outer city farmland and stuff like that on the outside. Maybe even what looks to be a kind of fishing hut along the water. And then perched, looking over the entire city, we have this amazing castle home mansion that is perched up on this little cliff that is overlooking the entire city. You can see just the intricate amount of stair work that it took to get all the way up to this particular mansion. It is really, really cool to see the possibilities that players are able to get to with all of this. It also looks like over here there might be a bridge. I don't know if this is player made or if that's something that exists already. And it looks like we have another bridge right here that also looks to be player made. But then additionally, a wall that goes around the entire city too. Now, I don't know if walls are going to necessarily matter in the Heartlands. As we know, Heartlands are the provinces where players can build. They are PvE only. So I don't necessarily know if there is a benefit to having walls in your city, but maybe it's because you can limit access or maybe even charge people. This is a really cool screenshot, and it was an amazing way for me to start my week off, and it only gets better from here. Next up, we have an image of what looks to be looking down the street of one of the areas inside the city, we can see that there are a lot of buildings that are kind of lining out this street. Unfortunately, it does look like there is no actual road here. So it is something that I believe the developers have mentioned previously, where roads are kind of difficult for them to put into the game as it is. But it would be really cool just if they allowed us to, for plots that are owned by players, go and kind of mow your lawn essentially, or just take out the tall grass, or be able to put a dirt path that kind of overlaps. But nevertheless, this image here looks really great, and I can't wait to have images like this, but have 50, 60, hundreds of players walking around in this exact same image, going and doing different things, interacting with each other. Here's another image of a street that exists in this city. You can see that there's a well and just a lot of intricate architecture work on this street. You have at least 1, 2, 3, 5 different buildings that have individual doors for players to have permissions for and be able to access differently. So these could all be individual players' homes, or they could be shops, or they could be a combination of two. Maybe there's a player that lives up top and then their shop is down on the bottom. And then if this is a third floor, maybe there's storage or an attic space or something like that up top. Or maybe multiple groups of players live on the different stories. That is all for us to decide as players, but it's really cool to see this kind of thing existing in cities already in Pax Dei. You can see how this clay is being molded by the players and how Mainframe is giving us the building blocks to make really intricate communities like this. This appears to be the same image, but from a different angle of the street. So this is where we were looking at before, and this was at the very end. So you can see that there are several streets made in this city for players to call home in these individual houses. It looks like over here there's some kind of entertainment or banquet, open air banquet hall or something like that, but we'll get to that picture later. It is a really cool build in and of itself. Then right here, we have a closer picture of that huge building that existed previously in the first screenshot. And it's a lot closer now. We can see what looks to be almost another divine emblem of sorts on this church. And we also have a really cool, what I'm just going to call a marketplace here, because look at all of the intricate item placement that's here. We have different types of chests, all of these baskets, almost like a stall, it looks like. And then we have an open air kind of dining area for players to relax at. And it's all integrated together around this giant tree that exists in the middle of the city. This is a really, really cool build. And it's awesome to see how players are combining the environment with their builds and using the environment to make their builds look even better and look lived in rather than just kind of forced. Additionally, you can kind of see in the background, again, just the stair work that was done on that castle right there. But then we have some small little homes over here. Just, again, I don't know how many players actually built this city. We're just going to call it a city, but there are so many homes available for players to live in. There are shops here. It's very, very cool. It gets me very excited. Here's another rooftop image of the city as well. You can see that this player is standing on what looks to be an overlook of one of the streets that we've already seen. You can see that there looks to be a little bit of an open space over here. I don't know if we actually see what buildings are actually over here, but this building right here is definitely one of the first pictures that we saw, but from street level. So this is way, way, way up top on the roof of one of these buildings. And then we can also get a better picture of the monument, I guess we'll call it, the monument to the divine that exists right here. A really big, almost monolithic structure that players can enter the city from. Here's a ground level image of the marketplace, it appears, and there are just so many details that have been put into this city by the player or players who made it. You can just see it looks to be a tailor shop over here where players can go to get their equipment tailored, or maybe buy new equipment, or have repairs done on their current equipment. Then we have just all of the market stalls for the various goods that players might need as they're walking through this, what seems to be main thoroughfare of the city. Additionally, just as a side note, I don't think this is intentional, but I'm pretty sure there is a floating pig on top of the church. But it is really, really cool to see how all of this has now integrated together, and it's not just solo individual builds, but larger builds of multiple facets of a community have all been put together into one giant agglomeration, and it's now actually a city. And it's really cool to see this exist for players to be able to enjoy in the future. Now, here's another image of the marketplace main thoroughfare for the city. It does look like we actually have a road that is going through this portion. So maybe the players chose this location because there's a pre-populated road there. I don't know if there's going to be any benefits to traveling on a road that exists in game, but it is going to be something that's very important for organizing communities, as it allows you to build grids, kind of like what we see here, where there are streets and there are different locations that suit different play styles, like markets for merchants versus a craftsman area or something like that, or a church for priests. So it's really cool that we get all of these images showing the different aspects of community that are all going into building out this city. And other cities are going to be very much so like this in the coming months when we get to actually get into the alpha and play it. Here is that theater that I was talking about previously. It is a very open air design, but it's really cool to see how the players were able to use what looks to be chandeliers to make multi-layered chandeliers to provide this lighting for, I don't know exactly what this is supposed to be, if it's a runway of sorts. Maybe this is where the fashion shows happen, or maybe it's just a novel way for the medieval waiters and waitresses to deliver food to their patrons. But regardless of what it is, this is a really cool, almost like a globe theater kind of vibe to a medieval entertainment venue. Something that this is a really well done and creative build. Here is another image of what I think is kind of a tailor shop, because we have some looms back there, and you can see it almost is like these are display cabinets for players to be able to look at, examine, and then maybe decide that they want to purchase one of these things that are on display by the players. And then in the back, we have the various workstations, it appears, for players to actually be able to either craft on their own, or this is where the actual shop owner is performing most of their job functions. Then here we have the inside of one of the buildings. I don't exactly know which one it is, but it is what seems to be a really big banquet hall for either a guild or a tavern or the city as a whole. Who knows? But we have all of these chairs that have been kind of scattered about by the players, and just a big long table for everyone to congregate around. And then a nice little touch as well. In medieval courts, you typically have the people of prominence will sit at the very, very head of the table and preside over the banquets. And it's cool to see what looks to be those chairs and almost an elevated platform for the people presiding over the banquet to sit at, but also just really cool lighting in general. Here appears to be, now I think this might be just outside of the church, which is up there because we saw a couple of these pathways in the more elevated screenshots that we have. But this looks like it is just a really small room. We can see a bed that's right here, a chair, what looks to be some kind of dresser of some sort, and a doorway. So this is kind of what players will be able to acquire as they're traveling. Maybe a player came to this city and they were just here for business. They wanted to exchange some goods, or they were coming to visit the church, or they had some friends that were over here and they needed to log off for the night, or they needed to do something, and maybe it was going to be a more prolonged stay. They could potentially rent this space out and use it for a couple of days while they're walking around the city, exploring it. Maybe they need to log off a couple of times, they can come back, and this is a place that they can use as almost a personal base of operations for whatever they're doing in this city. So it's really cool that we're already seeing how player permissions can be used, and maybe this inn owner or something like that has some really good rates, and there's competition across the entire city of who's going to get the players to stay there. And maybe there's semi-permanent residents that even stay there. Then here it looks like it's almost a bank or something like that, because you can see the shelving right here, the table, the workbench, and then there's almost a like teller's cage in front of it to prevent people from being able to jump over. And then you have tables with bags right here. This is just creative in one way, but also if this is like a location for merchants to come and finish off trades, maybe they're fulfilling a request by someone in the city and they've brought 10 tons of logs for a player who ordered it. This might be the location in the future where you would come and fulfill contracts, and that's why there is this separation. The people who are going to be fulfilling the contracts would be on this side, and then where all the money is kept and all of the payments would be on this side. So another really cool kind of image of what things could be in the future for Pax Dei. And here is the inside of that giant building that we saw in the original screenshot. This is probably one of the largest buildings that I think we have ever seen in Pax Dei so far. And what I mean by that is I don't think we've seen a player-built structure that has been this large and this wide open yet to date. Now, a couple of people on the general Discord suggested that this might be based on some of the stonework, that it might actually be a ruin of a church or something like that existed, and then players came in and they built over it. And we don't know if that's something that is going to exist in game or not, but nevertheless, the amount of work that it looks like it had to go into framing this very large structure to make it all come together and not fall apart because of the integrity system seems to be a lot. There was a lot of effort that was put into this. I don't think one person could have built this on their own. This looks like a multi-individual effort, and it is huge. We can see the divine emblem at the very front and this really intricate frame on the roof here as well. This is all in all just a really cool image, and it will be exceptionally exciting to be able to adventure through player-made cities and see incredible works like this. Now, the one thing that we are missing here is panes of glass. I think that would make it look really cool. Instead of using what looks to be the railing building pieces for all of these windows, have stained glass there, have tapestries hanging from all of these walls as you'd see in a normal church, or maybe more stuff hanging from the banisters of this roof. That is what would finish this as well as like wall torches and stuff like that. But just wow, this is incredible. And then here is a dusk image, an image just as the sun is setting. You can see the various locations spread throughout the city where there are torches lighting up the walls, lighting up the streets, and all of that. Just, again, I don't know what else to say other than this is incredible. It's so cool to see how the game is actually functioning and how players are building something together in it already. This is another image kind of further down the street that we are looking at towards the theater. It looks like we can see it right here, but now it's at nighttime. And this is a really large octagonal tower that has been built into the side of this building. Really well done. It's cool to see architecture that's not just a bunch of squares and rectangles, but to have more angles, 60 degrees, 30 degrees, 45-degree angles to buildings. It makes them feel a lot more real, as in the real world, people didn't just build with hard angles. They had softer angles because that's what the environment was allowing them to build in that area at that time. And then here we have a close-up of the monument that is at the front of the city, embedded kind of in one of the walls. Now we can see some creative work has been done with the exterior lighting for this piece. We can see some chandeliers now that are hung up top. It looks to be a torch or standing lamp in the middle, and what I would imagine based on these light sources, some around there as well. So this looks like an experiment that players were doing with exterior lighting and trying to make the light sources look really cool. And this shot kind of encapsulates just the sheer awe of this. Now, if this is from a player's perspective, that tells you how tall this structure is. This is massive. And if this structure is tall, then from the perspective of how big this was in relation to, at the very beginning, the church, this is super tall, but this has to be massive. Just for your own perspective, that is insane. So I believe that is all of the screenshots that we have for this first city that we've seen for quite a while, actually, where it seems that multiple players have all come together and put effort into making something look really, really cool. Now we're kind of shifting gears a little bit, and we're going to be looking at a small forest village, something very peaceful that maybe players from this city would come and visit when they want to get away from the hustle and bustle of city life. And we're starting it off again with this divine cross motif that a lot of players are running with. It actually looks really cool. It's probably really simple for players to build, but it adds a whole lot of flavor when you're walking through this town. So I don't know if this is supposed to be a church that's behind it or something like that, but really, really well done. We can see a lot of potted plants and different windowsills and all of that, as well as what looks to be shutters on a lot of these. Now, most of them are open. In fact, all of them are open. And we also have what looks to be some kind of either a stall of some sort or maybe a place of a workshop of some sorts in the background. And the way that these screenshots worked is it's a couple of screenshots of specific buildings and architecture, and then it's also done both at night and during the daytime. So here is the same image, but at night. Now we have another shot of further down the road, just really well lit, even during the daytime with the shade from all of the trees. This also seems to be built along an actual road. We can see kind of the dirt or the cobblestone that's along here, and just really well done integration with the surrounding environment. And then here's that image again, but at nighttime. Then another image. This looks like it is carrying the walkway of the village a little bit in a different direction than maybe the main road is, but just another cool image of how players are integrating different build pieces together to make this really cool, awesome whole. Then the same shot from nighttime, kind of really cool how there's the blur that's possible. It makes it seem more cinematic, and the depth of field is really, really cool. Here's another image. This looks like a little fisherman's hut of sorts, and it is looking over a serene lake or river, and we can see a bridge in the background. I can't tell if this is a player-made bridge or if this is a pre-populated bridge, but either way, the light and the dark that are in on this image balances it perfectly, and whoever's taking these pictures, they really know what they're doing, one. And two, just another cool image of community in this game. And here it is at nighttime. And then here we have another image of the cross. Now, I don't know if this image here is the same cross as the one that we saw previously. I think they're different. So maybe this is a church. It definitely looks like a churchy type building or a chapel of some sort. That would make sense, as you have the cross right here and people walk up right there. So again, we're seeing instances where the community as a whole is building different structures that fit different purposes. And it's really exciting for me to see all of this, as this is what players are going to be doing in the game. We're going to be working together as a community to make something that's larger than us individually. And one of the things that I'm most excited about and most inspired to do in Pax Dei is to gather a group of people together to make one of the best, most accurate medieval fantasy cities that we can in a game. And I think that this is a really good indication that that's something that's not just possible, but something that's already happening right now with the friends and family alpha testers. So it's very interesting to be able to see all of this and kind of how players are getting to that point as it stands already. Here is another image of what looks to be the church. We can see a little bit into there, but we can't necessarily see the interiors exactly. And we also see the just awesome forest that this wonderful building exists in. I'm using a lot of positive words today. I apologize for that. I'm just so excited, and it makes me so happy to see all of these things that I just can't stop smiling and being positive about it. I don't know why I'm apologizing for being positive. But here's a walkway leading to other parts of the village, and here it is at nighttime. Again, really well-framed images from the city. So all of that being said, what have we learned from today and all of the screenshots that were dropped this week? There were 31 total screenshots, and man, oh man, did we get a lot to digest. It is very exciting for me to see how the various buildings and how players are coming together to work on larger projects. In the past, we've seen a lot of solo builds or builds that are definitely being made by maybe one or two players. I know last week's video, we were looking at a forest grotto, and I suggested that it looks like it's big enough for there to have been multiple players working on the same kind of unified vision. But this is taking that and it's dialing it up to 120%. This is insane how much work and organization has gone into building things like this. And we see not one, but two examples of that in this week alone. So we know that players are working to make villages and to make cities, but there has to be multiple groups that are working on doing all of these things. It makes you wonder how much other things exist in game right now. Are these two cities trading with each other? Are there trade routes that are made? Is there PvP that's going on between them? These are all things that I am very excited to learn about in the future, and I know you all are too. So that being said, if you want to learn all of this alongside us as we get more and more information unveiled about Pax Dei, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and share it with any of your friends who might also be interested in Pax Dei, as it most definitely helps our small startup channel and spread the word about such a cool game. I don't know what else. I don't know how much more of an exciting week we can get when it comes to just screenshots getting dropped. 31 screenshots, and we get to see all of these cities, two cities being made. It's just, I'm a little too excited on this. Either way, I hope you all have a great week, and until next week, I'm Altari, the professional gamer.